Hey everybody, once again, I'm making some patch notes for a system that I designed. This time it was basically a one-off performance. A friend of mine named Matt Hart has a band called Never Knew. I'm actually friends with all the guys in Never Knew. And they were doing a residency at a local venue, and he said, hey, why don't you come out and do a performance? So I threw something together. It's very similar to the system I used for sound motion, the yoga class thing, which was the last set of patch notes. There are a few notable differences, but that performance is done. So it's patch notes time again. That performance was like a month ago almost, and I've been doing other stuff since then. So I think I remember everything about this system. This will be kind of fun because maybe I'll be learning about it at the same time everyone else is. So I think where I want to start is just to play the system, let it do its thing for a second, and explain some of the differences. There's some cross modulation going on in this one that I think hearing it in context is going to make a lot more sense. So like the sound motion system, and I think like the other system before it, we've got a voice that's basically a subtractive voice with an oscillator and a filter. We've got the mutable rings, which is a resonator voice. And then we've got this other voice that's based around this ALM Busy Circuits MCO2. And it's really just a random sequence coming out of Pam's workout going through a pitch quantizer into here. And it's basically amplitude modulating the tides and the rings voice. But it's also the tides is coming back over and amplitude modulating the MCO. So they're all sort of playing off of each other. So here's an entire patch going all at once for a second. So breaking it down, so that's our subtractive voice, then our subtractive voice through this noise engineering distortion module, it's the Terci Ruina. Every single noise engineering module has a really Latin-esque sounding name. So Terci Ruina, Turkey Ruin. It's a distortion module. Sounds really cool. So there it is. Then here's rings going through Mimophone. Then here's our MCO. And it's already crunchy because again, one of the outputs of tides is coming in and modulating it. Notable that there's a slew on it, so I can make it pitch bend a little bit, or portamento. Then here's our drum beat coming out of the disting. But I've got tides coming through here, and then rings, my resonator voice coming through here. And it's just a little dope for VCA. So here's our level. But then here's our CV, which is the output of the MCO. You can do the same thing to rings. Add that slew to it. Now we're having some fun. So that's how the whole thing works in total. Again, I just wanted to let everyone hear what's going on there and also what's going on with this other voice. So let's work backwards through what's going on here. I think the easiest thing to do first, I'm just hitting the Mimophone, which is really just like echo and reverb. It's more or less verby, depending on what I do there. There's some other stuff going on with it. I've got it clocked from pans, so let's start there and take our clock out. As per usual, it is a bit of an adventure early on getting these tendrils cables out of the spaghetti nightmare that I've created with them. In fact, I may not... This guy is so gacked in that he's going to stay. All right, so the other side, really there's nothing else coming in except for the input, which is just the send from the Cosmix mixer right here. Oh, yes. First cable is unpatched. Doesn't that feel good? All right, and then we'll take the outputs, which come back in to channel 6 on the mixer, which would have given me the possibility of creating a feedback within this itself. But this feedback setting, it's called repeats, but it's really just feedback. You can get it to feedback pretty quickly, like just past noon, it starts to feedback on itself and regenerates. All right, so then let's do our drum patch. So we've got, like I was doing on the last system, this offset runs through a sample and hold and then goes to sample select. So the very first sample is empty. Here's a second sample, which will come up. Just a bit of like a breakdown. And it won't switch. It's like every bar.
Woody.
You got Steve Dooley there saying, "Oh, Woody." But it just allows me to bring the drums in like rhythmically relevant fashion without having to manage exactly what's going on here. I can just flip it and it'll come in on a downbeat. So here's our offset that's coming into the sample and hold. And then also we've got our trigger, which is actually being supplied by our sequencer, the Metropolix. Every bar, it sends out a trigger. And because it's a sample and hold, it won't grab the new value from here until it sees that trigger that comes in every bar, and then it transmits it all the way over here to the sample select.
Woody.
So really I'm just modulating that input with the offset into the sample and hold. So again, this is the same thing I did with the sound motion system. I think it was 2 bars on that one. I just did not have the channels open on PAMs to do that here. So I was just with a bar, doing it per bar, which made it a little more hectic. But it also just made it that much more real in the moment. Just that little extra bit of terror to keep it interesting. So once again, GAC Wars, nothing but GAC Wars. Here's the trigger that fires every sample, every 8 bars. So it'll go high for a little while. Then low for 4 bars. So every 8 bars, it fires this sample. Should be coming back around. There it is. And then it just comes directly out into the mixer. I could have sent it to Mimophone for some echo, and I may have done that at one point. Again, the whole thing's a giant blank. I just basically woke up in a dumpster afterwards. Don't know how I got there. My gear was next to me, so felt okay about it. No, really don't remember the performance that specifically. I do remember it. but theoretically I could have sent the drums to the Mimophone. Let's, keeping it on the simple side of town, let's do our AM, amplitude modulation voice next. So here's our volt per octave coming through the slew out of the quantizer from the, where are we getting from the quantizer? See, again, I don't remember. Oh, we're going through a sample and hold. Trigger is also coming from, oh, so I'm splitting the trigger with a mult. And then it's going, it's firing this as an envelope also. And then my input sample in is the oh no, sorry, I don't know why I'm going all the way over there. Okay, so because slew, and then slew's coming from here, and you, my friend, are coming from where? No, we are coming from the sample and hold. Sample and hold is getting its input. So one, the trigger is split from this channel of PAMs. And then this, won't this be fun when we figure out where this is coming from? This is coming from, see, this is why I'm doing this, because later on, if I, for some reason, if everyone's like, oh man, we want more of that Ohio is for Goblins project, couldn't get enough, I'm going to have to redo this, and it's going to be, okay, so yeah, we've got basically a random sequence coming out of channel 8 of PAMs, going over to the sample and hold. So it just becomes aligned rhythmically with that output of PAMs that's multiplied here on this buffered multiple. Then yeah, we go into the quantizer, it aligns it musically to pitch, so D, G, and A in the case of that last song. Comes out of here, down to the slew. Slew goes up to the volt per octave input on the MCO. One side actually goes, where are we? B goes, right, okay. So the output B, there's two outputs, and they're basically two variations on the whatever voice is here. And I'm just basically using on this a wave shaper, but it combines the two. Let's see. Yeah, and I've just got it as a triangle wave, just a real basic waveform, because it plays, to me, the more basic waveforms sound better once they hit this amplitude modulation over here. So my signal is coming out of this B output. I think the B output isn't being affected here. I don't know. Too late now. I've unpatched a whole bunch of stuff. Can't scope it. Then, yeah, they're both coming, I believe. Let's see if this is right. Again, we're learning. We're all learning about this together, folks. What a wonderful moment. Yeah, so this is one side is going to the CVN on this VCA here. And then the other side, I believe, is coming up to this side. Over the river and through the GAC woods to voltage control amplifier's house we go. I wonder if there's somebody, like there's a way to turn this into some sort of profitable venture by finding people who's like this is some sort of like visual ASMR. Like it's like, oh, it's so relaxing to just put this on mute and watch this guy struggle to get his patch cables through the cable management that he's created. That would be great. If anyone knows a site that I could load this to and monetize it for those people who need to watch me struggle to relax, please leave it in the comments. Okay, so that gets rid of the amplitude modulation, and then we're coming over here. This is the A output, which is actually if you remember, I played this, I patched it into the mixer, so it's not just a modulator, it's also its own voice. It's coming over here. What are we triggering? What are we even doing, bro? Oh, so this thing that was triggering the sample and hold, that's what the mult is. It's also triggering envelope, which is hitting this little Vactral VCA and shaping the actual sound of that that voice. Boy, Siri decided she wanted to be in the video. Everybody out in YouTube land knows now that I've got the Indian woman's voice in Siri because I think it sounds kind of cool and dignified. So this again was modulating amplitude on the tides and on rings, and then it was coming over here just directly through a Vactral VCA that was being modulated by this. It did actually have a pretty decent amount of rate on it. Again, no way to look at it now because it's been unpatched. All right, so that leaves sort of our main ingredients here now. Let's do rings first because it's third on the mixer. And we'll work back from the mixer on it. So it comes from the mixer to the VCA that was providing the amplitude modulation. Coming from the make noise Dynamix, which was being articulated by this make noise function. It's a attack decay. It's acting as an attack decay envelope and was articulating the notes into individual notes. Input of it is just coming directly from the rings itself. One thing about the rings is I was actually feeding it external noise. I maybe should have included that in the demo, but again, too late now. But one of the great things about rings is you can feed signal into it. The easiest thing to do is just feed some noise. So this is like white noise or pink noise maybe. I'd have to read the manual, but pretty dense noise up here. You can feed anything into it. So you can feed like one oscillator into it, and it'll do like one pitch sequence into a different pitch sequence, and interesting stuff happens, especially when you've got two different keys going, where you have like non-related pitch information going into the two. It does really cool stuff. It's really, really awesome module. So that was the output path. Rings to a voltage control amplifier / voltage control filters. That's what the Dynamix is in the most basic sense, being modulated by an attack decay envelope, going up to the amplitude modulation channel here and then into the mixer. So we got all this other stuff right here. Here's our noise, which is coming up into the first channel of the Dynamix, which is being modulated by this ADSR. Probably could have just used an AD for this, but I don't have a 2 HP AD, so I just used the ADSR and turned up the release. Just attack and decay all the way down, just use the release to create the decay, essentially. And that was being fired by a sequence here. Oops, sorry, bumped my mic stand. So like a Euclidean sequence would determine the articulation of the noise going into the input on rings. And then I literally modulated everything I possibly could on rings. Even the structure, which honestly, if you want to do some really drastic, very gestural stuff, it's great. If you want to keep things sounding very samey Western pitch-y, like notes, like I'll say musical, that's maybe not the right word for it. You don't want to modulate this too much. So you can see like it's just a tiny little bit of flavor in there. It gets real sort of portamento-y and wacky very quickly. Then position, which is not really a pulse width thing. It does different things in different modes, but you could mistake it for pulse width modulation. And it's being modulated by this after-later peak, P-I-Q-U-E, which is a clone of Mutable's peaks. So it's just in a dual LFO mode. And I could modulate that. Then I've got damping, which is how hard it grabs onto the noise coming in and lets it resonate at all the way. This position, it's just passing noise through it. This position, it rings out kind of for eternity. Modulating it with this peaks, and I had it set to smooth random. And then the top peaks, also smooth random, was modulating the brightness of rings. And last but not least, I've got my volt per octave, which is coming directly over here from Metropolix. So pitch 2 of Metropolix is modulating that, and then gate 2 of Metropolix is triggering the function. I believe that is everything. Ooh, while we're at it, let's get you. This was our clock source for the Mimophone, so that the echoes in the Mimophone were a division of basically the clock of the sequencer. And I had it in slew mode, so it's a ping pong, basically like one side's one division, other side's another division. They kind of cross feedback. It's fun musical times. This guy was modulating. This guy was articulating the MCO, so it's out of here too. Okay, cool. We're down to one voice, and still look at all this gack. Oh, well, this is a freebie. This is the mixer going to the outputs. That can go away. Okay, so let's do the same thing. We're going to work backwards. First, we had two channels. We had the tercerina. I think that's the most Latin way you can say it, right? It's Italian. You got to make a gesture. Tercerina. Turkey. The Turk is coming in channel 2. That is being fed. Oops, nope. Sorry. Grabbing the wrong stuff. That's being fed from a multiple. Another buffered active split. Buffered multiple. It's the same thing. And one side of the split just going directly into channel 1, which is the clean channel. Channel 2 was the dirty channel with the turkey runa coming into channel 2. So I just unpatch that and we can just look at where it's going from there. In ahead of the mult, we're coming out of our amplitude modulation channel, and then from there, coming out of this Eudaimonia by Dreadbox. Really, I got it. I didn't buy it because it was like some amazing filter, but it's a really cool filter. Like every time I plug it in, I'm like, oh man, sounds great. The resonance on it is lovely. The VC, it's a mixer and a VCA, so I am actually using this maths to articulate the VCA in it. It overdrives great. Like it takes extra signal and flattens it off in a really musical way. It's just a great sounding module. It's part of their prismatic line. They've got like all these really colorful modules, and when you see them all together, like my inner 5-year-old wants to build a system with just these because of the color scheme, right? Like it's just sort of like your brain just goes candy when it sees it. Anyway, it's maths. Oh, Right, we're splitting this. So this is gate 2, or gate 1, sorry. Gate 1 of the Metropolis, and one side's going up here. Oh, the other side is going to here, which is modulating the filter in a roundabout way. And by roundabout way, it means I'm feeding it into a mixer with something else. I guess that's not very roundabout. We're also taking a random signal into channel 2 of maths and just using it to modulate the decay time on the filter. Again, this is coming over here along with a LFO from Pam's, which is really nice because I saved a different Pam setting for each song. So sometimes my LFO is just like a free running LFO. Sometimes it's tempo sync. Sometimes it was a tempo sync ramp. Sometimes it was stepped random. But I can bring the LFO in, but then bring in articulation relative to it and just play this. So this channel would be this side of maths, and then this channel was the LFO coming over, and then they would all go into the CV input on the filter. Boom. Okay. And then, here's our volume articulation coming into the VCA on the eudaimonia, eudamania. Sorry, I can't see the name of it, and I'm really bad at remembering things. Here's our random going from channel 2 to the decay of the filter, and that's coming out of our 2 HP random, and then that's being clocked. That's just taking the 16th note clock of the Metropolis. So every 16th note, I've got a new value. So I just kept it pretty subtle. You can see, like, I've got the quantized output halfway and then this. So it's just adding a little humanization to the decay on the filter so it's not as machine gunny, ideally. Okay, so we're getting there. So then we've got these 3 outputs of tides. The high, which is the square, and then the bipolar and unipolar sloped output are all getting mixed together. And in this performance, I didn't really change these all that much, I don't think. I just let them go just because, like, all 3 of these dimed out, distort really lovely. And then, of course, later on, I'm distorting them even more because Ozzy Osbourne forever. That's why. No, just it's one of the reasons that certain synths sound so good, like a Moog. I've actually got a vintage Model D, and one of the things it does really well is it distorts the waveform going into the filter, and that's why it sounds the way it does. Okay, so I've just got here another LFO, which is coming over here to attenuate. That's modulating slope. It's really the pitch. It's the pulse width. The thing that I love about version 1 tides, and far be it from me to question anything Emily Gillett ever did, but this version, you can modulate the slope on all the inputs. I mean, low doesn't really let you do it. The new version, I don't think it does that. Of course, the new version does so much other stuff. I never run it like this in the new version, so I might be talking completely crazy, but it's just being able to pulse width modulate the square like normal, but then pulse width modulate these slope inputs really makes it just sound amazing to me. And here's our volt per octave, our pitch information coming in from the sequencer. And here's our low output, which is really just a very narrow pulse at the beginning of each cycle. Where high, like you can modulate the width of it. So like in the middle, it's 50% up, 50% down. Here it's very little up, almost all the way down, and you can sweep through it. because it sounds wonderful. Low, just since it's just like basically high all the way here. And since it's less fun, that's what I used to modulate the MCO. Pitch information's being split at a buffered multiple, aka an active split. Half of it's coming over here to tides to the volt per octave. Then there's a volt per octave here. This will self-resonate, so theoretically you can turn this into a sine wave voice if you want to, if that's the way you choose to live your life. And then I got my clock and my reset, so that every time I start, it resets the sequencer at the first step and then clocks it with the rest of the system. And there it is, bare, like the day it was born. Left and right out, going to DI, going into my interface. That's why you can hear it. But now, nothing happens. Okay, so that's it. Hopefully, you'll find this somewhat inspiring. My camera died. Awesome. So who knows? The second half of this video is just going to be some fun still imagery, I suspect. But there it is. Thanks, and see you soon.